And welcome back to Rosie Morning right here on CHSR FM 97.9, CHSRFM.ca. That last piece you heard was called "O Canada, Empty Spaces, America," and that's from none other than Ginny James, who I'm pleased to be talking to this morning here. How are you doing, Ginny? Oh, wait a second. I don't have you turned on. There we go. Now we can talk to you.
Yes, there's quite a battle going on there.
How are you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm barely awake, but barely. I'm here, yeah.
Yeah, it's usually the case, eh? At 7:30 morning, kind of comes early. So, Ginny, I guess I just discovered your music a couple of weeks ago, just going through Reverb Nation, looking for some music from my blues show that I have on Saturday nights, and I came across your music, and then you and I got chatting, and things kind of got interesting, and I guess maybe we could start from the beginning. You were it would have been back in the 90s? What time frame are we looking at when you were quite involved in the blues scene in Halifax?
Well, I must just sort of go into my whole sort of story.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Probably be the best thing.
Sounds good.
I started off playing punk rock back in 1978 with a band called The Defects, and we got a little bit of hype and a little bit of the sort of noise going with us and everything. And then we broke up in the studio, so that made the hype even better. But Donnie Donahue was actually one of the band leaders in that band, and Mark Wellner was the other one, and the writing was really good. We weren't really punk as much as we were just another rock and roll band kind of thing. But we did a couple of crazy things. We caused a riot on Friday the 13th, which is the day before Valentine's Day at the Anvil Tavern, and then we got banned from every bar in the Maritimes. So that was our hype right there. But, and during that time period, actually, I first started dressing female and tried, like, being born in 1960 and in the 60s, nobody knew anything about being transgendered, or I didn't even know the word transsexual until like the 80s or whatever.
Right, same here, yep.
Yeah, so I really had no idea. I just knew that I felt like I was female inside from the time I was little, and that wasn't really accepted so much, and I kind of grew up hiding that, from everybody. And in the punk band, I saw a chance, through the whole David Bowie thing and the New York Dolls and that in the punk scene, that maybe I could start to try to introduce that into my life some.
For sure, yeah.
And I did, well, pretty well much of a novice at it all and everything. I just tried to express myself. I lasted till around 1980 when I was sexually assaulted, and for being who I was. And, of course, like any other victim, I blame myself for that. And hid it away from everybody until 1985. I never confided in anybody that it had even happened.
Right.
I just stopped. I told everybody it was a phase I went through, and I just kind of put it away. And what I did instead is I decided to basically dedicate my life to music. So from 1980 on until 2004, I made my living solely from playing with different bands, bar bands mostly, and back in the late 70s and into the 80s, you were still playing 6 nights a week.
Right.
And you were making a good living doing it. I mean, even in Halifax, like we used to play Scoundrels, the Middle Deck, Lawrence Oregano's, the Original Gingers. We used to do Christmas parties for Thackeray's, and this was the Willie Hop Band. Wow. And at that time, I was playing with Willie Hop and with Vox Violins, and was in a duo with Mark Raven, and played some with Mark Wellner. I was in like 4 or 5 bands at once. And,
wow, yeah.
And that kind of, we did an album with Willie Hop in 1985. And that band still, has the possibilities of being ongoing.
Yeah.
We never did officially break up, but it's just we all sort of grew apart and everything.
Right. I got a track that we'll play later, too, from Willie Hop.
Oh, great.
Here.
Yeah. Oh, it's one of my favorite bands to have been in. It's basically a jump and jive Chicago blues band. It was a great band. And anyway, I moved to Antigonish and continued working down there with different country bands and stuff. And I first met John Campbell as John Campbell in Squeeze Play when I played with them in 1988. And so I've had basically a whole life of playing in probably around 40 bands or something.
Wow.
Just bar bands and everything. And I left John in 2004, not because of transition, just because we had played together on and off our whole lives for, basically from the 80s.
Yeah.
And we got in a little bit of a dispute about a Western tour, and that's when I left.
Okay.
But I saw that opportunity, basically, to, my younger brother was dying of brain cancer, and he's sort of known for years that, I am trans.
Yeah.
And he basically just said, life's too short. I'm not going to be around much longer. You should actually be who you are.
Right.
I mean, why hide it? And this is like...
Yeah, when you hear advice from a dying brother, it kind of hits you hard, yeah.
So by the end of 2005, I had started transition and figured that, okay, well, there's definitely going to be a bump in my career here. Because being an entertainer, you can't transition stealth, as in, like, nobody knows you just because you work in a normal job and blah, 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 and all of a sudden you change your life slowly.
Now before you carry on, did you expect the bump to be as big as it was?
No, I didn't really. I figured, within a couple of years, people would have sort of moved past it.
Right.
And instead of that, basically what happened was, in an odd way, even though I was so visible, I became invisible.
Okay.
It's like I ceased to exist, so I didn't have to think about me and think about my transition, whether it made them comfortable, whether they wanted to work with me, or they just sort of... There was no phone calls. It all just went away. And I mean, now it's 10 years down the road past that, and I'm married. I married my life partner, my soulmate, and she's a trans woman as well.
Right.
I have a life now as being a housewife and caregiver and homemaker, and that's a whole different thing. But it's still hard not to have a little bit of bitterness.
Yeah, no kidding. So during the transition, like obviously, like your transition wouldn't take place overnight.
No.
So was this a gradual kind of thing where people kind of turned their back on you, or? Well,
I try to follow some sort of standards for transitioning.
Right.
I mean, the only way I could basically find out was go online and stuff. And even before the whole Trans-America movie and all that, I could find out that you're supposed to tell everybody in your life, and if you're going to live full-time female, that means you start living full-time female.
Right.
So I told everybody in my work, too, which was the music community, and my family and closest friends and everything, and I expected that, okay, well, somebody is going to say, it doesn't matter, come on out and keep playing or whatever.
Right.
But that never really happened. And I ended up actually going to Baltimore in 2006 for 6 months to see if I could actually get started down there. And then my brother passed away from brain cancer in 2007, so I came back home for that.
Okay.
And I did get hired by Loblaws Superstores in Bedford as the first trans woman in Canada, actually, which kind of freaked me out. Hired as female, and I worked out there 2007, 2010 as assistant manager of health and beauty department, or assistant to the manager. And so that was sort of affirming or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, the music kind of went away.
Right.
And that's sort of a hole that's hard to fill because it's my life's passion.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not just the job. It never was that to me. It was my passion.
Yeah.
And I think, like, probably for maybe even out there now, it might be better. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
I just know that for me, just being shunned and shut out from the whole thing is basically, and it being the entertainment business and the music, once you're out of the spotlight, and not that I was a star or anything, but once you're out of people's attention, it's hard to get back in there again.
Yeah, I suppose it would be. And
you're not somebody they call anyway. They've got their own rotation of players now that they use.
Right.
Whatever happened to, well, I used to be called Blair. That's my dead name. I don't really tell people that, but anyway, I was Blair C. Boyer, and it was kind of like whatever happened to.
Yeah.
And didn't they transition? And then they kind of just moved on, even if it got to that point, which it might not. With some of the younger players, wouldn't have a clue who I was.
Yeah.
Nor I them. And just from being uninvolved in a fast-moving scene like a music scene actually is.
Right.
You're kind of by the wayside, and then you're gone.
Yeah.
So.
Well, certainly is courageous, and I'm certainly thankful that you're on here talking with me this morning. If anything, there's other people out there who are, I'm sure going through similar situations, similar feelings, and this is certainly affirming for them to be able to hear you talk to me on the air.
Well, that's true too, and that's kind of why I got up actually this morning to do this, because I'm normally asleep until. Well, sometimes I'm up all night, and because I'm basically retired now.
Right.
I mean, being a homemaker and all that, I don't really.
Yeah.
I don't really have any kind of a schedule anymore, but I'm glad I got up to do this just because of that.
Yeah.
And this is the first time in 10 years I've actually ever publicly really told my story.
Right.
To any degree, and I'm pretty happy at the place where I am.
Yeah. So you still play, like, as far as you still pick up your bass every once in a while?
Oh yeah. No, I play pretty well every day.
Right on.
And I'm putting together a trio right now, just doing some Jaco Pastorius stuff.
Oh, cool.
Some Museb and a few jazz standards.
Oh,
some
awesome.
Mielo and stuff, and
that's good.
So that'll be fun. And I did play the Black Sabbath. Well, two Black Sabbath bands over the last 2 years with Paul Glant on drums. He's playing drums with me in the fusion trio.
Okay.
And Les Brown on guitar. And the first vocalist was Bernie Fitzgerald, and we did 8 albums of Black Sabbath, the first 8.
Oh, wow.
In entirety. And we just did it just basically for ourselves. We didn't actually think anybody was going to pay for that. And
right.
But we tried to do the albums in entirety, completely, and which is a lot of work to
lick for lick, note for note, kind of thing.
And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, right on.
But so it took me till like I was 53 before I actually played heavy metal, real heavy metal. And then we did another little project with a different vocalist, and sort of did the Ronnie James Dio years with Sabbath too.
Oh, okay, right on.
But we didn't really play any place. That was just basically for our own amusement. And
so, as far as musical genres, what would you consider yourself? You're more of a blues musician, jazz? Would you?
Jazz fusion's a good thing, because, I mean, I have played bluegrass and Celtic music and rock and metal and funk and R&B and blues and all that, and so all those styles do come out in my playing at some point.
Right.
So I would just say jazz fusion, but most of the stuff that I did was country and blues, as far as breadwinning stuff.
Sure.
And that was great being part of the music scene here when, playing blues was actually breadwinning. Yeah,
exactly, right.
There used to be a really great scene here. There just isn't the bars anymore, for one thing.
What is there, Beerley's? Is that one of them? That's
Beerley's is one here. But there used to be so many. I mean, it used to be quite the blues circuit out in the country and stuff too.
Yeah.
That
who knows? Maybe one of these days it'll be a revival or something.
Yeah, well, the no smoking in the bars and the tougher drinking and driving laws.
Yeah, that's right. Though, that doesn't help. But it helps in other ways, but it doesn't help in the sense of
the entertainment business.
Yeah. But listen, Ginny, thank you so much for coming on, and I wish you all the best.
Oh, thank you.
And well, hopefully we can talk again. We'll see how you make it out.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep on working on putting more stuff up on my websites and stuff. And,
right on. And I know you can find you on Reverb Nation. Is there any other place online that we can find you?
I'm on YouTube, but the links are right there on the Reverb one as well.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, Ginny, thanks. That's Ginny James, and nice of her to talk to us this morning.